Hey everybody, Chris Stegall here with MK Partners, back for another round of Q&A with Matt K, which means I am joined once again, of course, by Matt Kaufman. Hi,
Hey,
Matt.
Chris.
And this is the series where we take a question from the audience or the Trailblazer community or our day-to-day lives in the Salesforce ecosystem, and we put Matt on the spot to answer it with no prep, no editing, and no polish after the fact. So you get to see
Yeah,
a raw look at what it looks like to troubleshoot and solve problems in the Salesforce ecosystem.
yeah. And I had off last week for TDX, so I'm a little rusty, a little more nervous than usual.
Yeah, although you probably were more prepared than everyone else for those mini hacks and
Yes.
the little challenges where you're sitting down in a conference hall with 1,000 people walking around trying to solve a problem in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that is true. I did enjoy the mini hacks and doing Trailhead at TDX also. I've done a lot of Trailhead, so often when I get there, I don't have to do too many in order to complete the challenge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And before we jump into today's question, I do want to do my housekeeping where I ask you to please like and subscribe to the video if you haven't already, or to the channel, I should say. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to me. I get a little email every time it happens, and that is fun. And that way you'll be the first to know when we have new installments of this series weekly, post videos about new releases, Salesforce features, updates, news, events, and all of that jazz. And if you have a question yourself that you'd like to see answered on Q&A with Matt K, head over to go.mkp.dev/Q&A, and we have a little form there that you can fill out, and we will bump you right to the top of the list because we would always rather answer questions from folks that have asked directly than strangers on the internet. You can, of course, also comment on the video here, and we will be happy to answer it as well. All right, but let's get started with Q&A with Matt K. Today's question comes from the Trailblazer community. Samiksha asks, is it possible to write a query for extracting a specific report?
Okay. It is possible to write a query to extract data from a report. It is. It is not something I do on a daily basis. It is also something that, given how long I've been doing this, is on the newer end. So I was writing Apex a lot earlier than when this feature came out. So off the top of my head, I don't remember the right words to type, but I know I can figure it out, right?
Okay.
So I accept this challenge.
Would you like your screen on
Yes,
the board here?
please.
There it
Yeah.
is.
All right. So this is my playground org, and I have my VS Code up as well. And I am going to have to do a Google search or a favorite search engine search if we want to try to remain neutral, to figure out what are the right words to use to type this. So Apex query report. And now, is this cheating? Because I'm basically looking up somebody else's.
I feel like if
Um,
that's the approach you would take in, like, if a client called with this question, you're not going to burn hours trying to guess and check, right? You would look it up.
yeah. Well, okay. So let me start without that then. Okay. So there is some stuff I can do without the cheating so far. And again, it's not really cheating because it's the way that we all do it. But I don't know. Maybe that is. Maybe that isn't. So the first thing I can show you is that it is possible to just query reports like you would any other object, right? So I can do this, list report, reports equals, and then select ID, comma, I don't remember if it's title or name, but from report, and then I'll put limit 100s to be safe, and I'll execute this and cross my fingers. Oh no, it's not title. Okay, it is maybe name. Okay, that worked. Great. And so then we can come here and actually see, oh, wait, does this org have no reports? We are making this without any edits. No, there are some reports. Okay, so that's interesting that it did not work. Oh, wait, maybe it did work and I am that. Yeah, no, it got 9 records. I forgot to put a system debug. That would do it. Let's just do that. Okay, yeah, no editing. This is actually how I work. If you're a client watching this, you're like, I'm paying for this guy to stumble around, but I stumble very quickly. So answer is yes. So here we can see that we can get a list of the reports, right? We can also look at it a different way. Let's see if this will work. Sometimes this query editor here is not as flexible as running it in the execute anonymous. Let's just see if that works. It does work. Okay, so we can see the list of things like that. And there are other attributes. So typically what I'm going to do when I want to figure out my queries, I'm actually going to look for the word report, and then I'll put Salesforce, and I'll put S object. And there's actually a list of all of the objects, and the list is huge. I don't remember when the list was under 100, but the list is huge of all the different objects that are available inside Apex, and you can query them. And so here we can see that the report object is available. You can do a describe of it. You can do a query, and you can search and retrieve. And so I'm going to pull description. There's developer name, folder name. That's an interesting one. And then there's other stuff like last run date, last view date. So let's just pull in a little more stuff. And so now we can get some more information. So this is useful. I have actually built apps that focus around the organization and execution of reports. So it's not like that unusual. And so this is the starting point, is this. But I think the question, by the way, Chris, could you link the question to me just so I could pull it up at some point?
Yeah.
I think the question is really asking not for, can I get a list of the reports? It's really asking for something about, can I get the data from the report? I'm pretty sure. And I remember when this was not possible, and I remember when it became possible. So I know that it is possible. I just don't remember the right classes to use to do it. Oh, that's going to be a pain. Let me come back here. But what I can do is what I started to do earlier. So I know this is a question that's been answered before. I want to say it's like report data, Salesforce, Apex, something like that. Here we go. Get report data. Found it. And so this is the Apex guide on how to do this. Now, this is definitely a developer question. I would not expect an admin, an app builder, or even a junior developer to do this, because you're going to have to follow this example here. And I know, because I remember, this example is almost like a hello world example, which is like, hey, look, we're showing that it's possible. But when it comes time to do what you really need to do for your business use case, this probably is not going to be quite enough. And you're going to have to figure some stuff out on your own. I remember having that experience when I first worked on it. And so you can see here, this is an example. This is what we just did. So I'm going to zoom in. We just did a query of reports, and we got back the ID, and I got the name, but you could get back the developer name. It's the ID that was important, basically, because you need the ID of the report in order to go to the next step. And so the next step is here. You can run the report synchronously, which means it's going to run while your code is executing. You got to be careful. If it's a super big report, you may end up getting a timeout. But I think most of the reports in this sandbox, in this playground, are simple reports. So you can run it, and then you can get aspects of the report. So let's pick a report. Chris, I'll let you choose any of the reports on the screen, or if you want me to create a new one, I can do that as well. Just to prove that I don't know what we're doing.
Well, so the report that they're looking for is booked inquiry. So if we have anything that seems like it might have similar field or field types, maybe that's the way to go.
So booked inquiry sounds like it might be an opportunity. Let me pull up that.
Yeah, or like a meeting set up on an opportunity or something. A demo has been booked. Someone's been.
Okay. The other thing I just noticed is that they said they're using an external system and they want to retrieve it from Salesforce. So this may actually be an API question, but we're going to approach it from Apex just because if we go through the API route, they're like, okay, we don't know what programming language they're using and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's easier to just kind of do this from Apex for now. We can always do a follow-up. To me, booked inquiries sound like either there's an appointment set or maybe a report on opportunities. I'm going to create a new report on opportunities. It seems like a common use case. And so even if it doesn't really meet the need of this question, I think that someone watching this at home later would probably get some value out of it. Okay, so here's a report. There's 3 records. That sounds great. And I'm just going to call this booked inquiry. Did I spell that right? And we'll put it in inquiry. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. And then what I'm going to do, just to make sure that this is working, I'm going to close these two and run this query one more time, and there it is, booked inquiry. Okay, and there's the ID. Okay, perfect. So let's come back to here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this whole thing, right? So there's a copy button here. I'll click it and I'll copy, and I'll jump back here to my VS Code, and I'm going to create a new Apex class, and we'll call this report helper, and I'll start massaging that sample code, because like I said, it doesn't fully do what you really need, but it was the starting point. Okay, and so we start with an ID. We'll call this the report ID. And so this, actually, yeah, that's fine. Well, maybe we'll do it by name. Okay, let's do it by name. And that way we can actually kind of use this entire code. So it's report name. And then here, I'm going to modify this query to get the report by name. Okay, I'm going to take out some comments. Looks like my colors are not showing up right now. Hopefully we'll get some colors soon on here. I'll make it a little easier to read. And there we go. Okay, then we run the report asynchronously. So this part is going to be all the same. Now this one here, this is where like, okay, I don't have any groups. So this isn't going to work for me. Now I can create groups, and we could do that. And then it starts to get into this weird stuff they call a fact map. And here we can get more information. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if this will compile. It should. Okay, it looks like it compiled. And then I'm going to jump back here. So it's report helper.get report data is what we, oh no, is what we want to do. Say that one more time. Okay, and I'm just going to, oh, where is it there? Report helper.get report data, and then we're going to type in the name of that report that I called it before, booked inquiry. Although this says developer name, right? And now that I think about it, the developer name is probably different. So let's just put an or in here. And that way it'll work. Okay, and I'll compile that one more time. Structured clone is not defined. What is going on there? That is not a problem. Okay. So I'm going to run this now. I'll run it from the other screen just so it'll be, I think, a little easier to read. So this is here. We're going to just run it. And there's a bunch of system debugs in there already. Now, oh, but we're going to get an error because there's no groupings. So let's come back to my report, and I'm going to edit this just for now. And we will group it by, let's group it by opportunity owner. Or I'll do it this way. Okay, and let's do a save and run, and then I'll execute. Oh, list index out of bound line 9. Okay, let's come back here. Well, that is interesting. Let me try to figure out what's going on as I think. Okay, so let's do this one more time. Okay, so the developer name is booked inquiry ANQ. The name is booked inquiry. Get report will get booked inquiry. That looks correct. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in there just to be safe. And let's see what happens now. Okay, that worked. Okay. I'll let it go. I'm sure I can figure out why, but it's just not worth it. Okay, so now we can see stuff, right? So we have a label, William Sims. That was the grouping. I happen to remember the first thing we did was look at the grouping. And then we have some other stuff in here as well. I think this is the owner. This is the user, William Sims. And then this is 3, which is the summary. And then this is something else. If we look at the report, so this is his owner ID. That was that number. 3 is the count. And then this is the first row, I think. And if we look at the code, we can see that here key label value is being debugged. So those are the 3 things that we were debugging. Key label value. There it is. It's actually spelled out, so it makes it really easy to figure out. Then we have summary, and then we have one other, so line 29 and line 33. So line 29, here we can see, oh, here it is, 33. It's this one down here. So the summary value, and then the detail row of the first row. So this is essentially how you get the details out of a report. Now, this is like, we're just hard coding one thing at a time, so it's not that useful, right? What we probably want to do is something like this, where we say for integer I equals 0, and I is going to be less than this thing here. So that fact details.getRows is a list or an array of rows. And then we can loop through that. And instead of showing just the first one, we can show all of it. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to place this 0 with an I. And so now this will show us the name of all of the accounts. Let's see what's happening. No problems. I don't know why I keep getting there, but that's okay. And so now if we run it one more time, we should see the 3. Oh, see, it didn't save. Yeah. Okay, let's try that one more time. I'm getting an error. So side note Q&A, often what I have found is if I'm getting an error, I basically just need to quit and relaunch. So I'm going to close that and reopen, and if this doesn't work, sometimes the other thing I do is I open another project and go to that, and then I come back to the one I started with, and that often fixes it as well. So we'll do that. And if this doesn't work, then it may just be the way I'm running VS Code in my browser instead of running the actual application, and that's a possibility too. It could also be that maybe something else is going on because I'm getting that error message there. So we will see if we can figure it out. Let me try deploying. That's not deploying. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually I'm just going to copy this file, and then I'm going to come to the developer console and open it here under report. Well, that is interesting. What did I call my file? Report helper. And it's not showing up. How is that possible? Because I already called it here.
Yeah, where would it have?
This is quite the
from?
mystery. So okay, so there's another way to do it, right? Salesforce, there's always more than one way to do it. So I'm going to go to setup, and I'm going to go to Apex classes is what I'm going to do. And let's see if that class exists. I was just using this org for stuff at TDX, and there it is. It's right there. It does exist. Now, because this is not a production org, I'm able to edit it right now in the browser. Normally, we would go through a deployment process. We would not do it this way. So I'm going to hit save. And this, by the way, is a technique that I use when I have crazy problems. I'm like, oh, my code editor, my IDE is not working. I will do stuff like this where I write the code in the IDE because it's a little more comfortable, and then I'll move it here if needed. Okay, so here we are, and let's come back to the developer console. I'm going to run it one more time. Again, what we're going to see this time is all 3 rows at the bottom. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And we could go even further with this. So I'm going to come back here, and we'll edit the class. So before we were getting get data cells I, and then get label, right? There's a way to get the other details as well. So I'm going to jump back here, and let's see if we can figure that out. It may not, it's not in here. So here we're getting a row. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for this class in the docs. So we're going to come back here, and we're going to look for this report detail row. Let's do it one more time. Apex. Here it is. So this class is in the Apex docs, and we can see it gets data cells, returns a list of data cells for a detail row. So all the cells should be available there. So we have account name, opportunity name, stage, and so on and so forth, right? Not just the label. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this reports a list of report detail cells. So we'll get a list of each cell, just like in a spreadsheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And cells equals this. Detail row. Okay, that looks right. I'm so confused now because I'm looking at this. I'm like, wait a minute. How did it? It did do the 3 names of the accounts. I read it wrong. It did the 3 cells. Yes. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So for this row, we went and got, silly me, we got the first cell, the second cell, and the third cell of the first row. Instead of doing it the right way, right? Okay, so here's what I want to do. For each row, I want to get the cells, and now I want to show those cells. Now this is going to be a pain. If I were to show each cell, we're going to have this long string, right? Or this long list of debugs. So I need a way to show this in a nicer way. So sometimes what we do, we could, let's see, how could we do it? We could system.debug. We could try doing this, but I know this isn't going to look good. But we could try that. Let's just try it out. I'll do a quick save, and we'll see what it looks like. Hopefully, now we'll have one row that represents the row in the report, right? So it's a little better. So there we go. This is row 1, this is row 2, and this is row 3. I guess they were all with United Oil and Gas. No, that can't be right. It's showing the same thing over and over. So I definitely have a problem in my code. Let's come back. Because I'm just doing it on 0. Get rows square bracket 0. Right. But I'm not doing that. What am I doing? Detail row. Yes, I am. I'm repeating on there. So what I need to do is actually copy this line, paste it in here, and we're going to say this is equal to I. Okay, and now we'll save it, and we'll come back and debug. And this is like a brute force attempt at getting this to work. There we go. Okay, row 1, United Oil. Row 2, Metropolitan Health. Row 3, Farmers Co-op. Row 1, row 2, row 3, it matches.
Cool.
You can get this. Now, if you're going to return this, whether it's an API or something like that, you probably don't want to just do a system debug. You probably want to return this in a nicer way. Usually for API calls, we're going to return things as a string, and that string is going to be a JSON string. A JSON is just a notation that we use to keep track of stuff. I might even be able to, let's see, so we can do this, list object, this is my results, object. And then at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return json.serialize results. And now I just have to populate it. And I think what I can do, let's see, it's a list and a detail row. I might be able to even just take a shortcut and do something like this. I don't know if that'll work. There's certain objects. There's certain objects in Apex that are not serializable, which means that the JSON engine functionality doesn't allow you to do it. Actually, here you can see it's not letting me add it to a list of objects, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to create my own structures. And there's a couple ways to do this. I'll just do it with a map of string to object, and we're going to call this, let's call this a JSON row equals new map, string comma object, and then this will get that. I'm going to move this one up here. Just I still have my debug for now in case we need to check something. And now I need to add the cells to here. And I'm trying to think, how will I do this? So for integer, so I'm going to loop through each cell. For integer j equals 0, j less than detail rows dot get data cells dot size semicolon j plus plus. Okay, and now I need to put something in here. And the question is, what am I putting in there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, get detail row, here it is. So this object is so we have a label and a value. Perfect. Okay. So I can call get label and I can call get value, and then that's what we're going to put in to our code. We jump back here. Okay, so we're going to detail row, get data cells, square bracket, I dot get label, comma, get value. And so the result will be pairing. This field equals this value. This field equals this value, so on and so forth. We're putting that into this JSON row, and then the JSON row we're putting into results. I'm sorry, it should be into response. There we go. And then we're going to return the response. And if I want to be really proper, I would do this and define this better, since it's a list of maps, even though that technically is also a list of objects. Let's see if this saves. Looks like it did. Okay, and now if I come back here, what I want to do is say string, JSON string equals the output of this. And then I can do a couple things. I can system debug this JSON string, but I can also, actually, it's a list of objects. We'll call this rows equals, I can deserialize it, which basically means undo the JSON. And this is going to be JSON string. I'm doing this from by heart. So list object dot class. Let's see if that works. If not, we won't do that last part. Okay, let me just comment this part out, or we'll just run this part first, and then I'll come back to that one. Okay, awesome. So that worked there. You can see, well, something doesn't look right. Right, so I have the name of the company and the ID of the account, but then here I have a name with a hyphen and then the ID of the opportunity. So something definitely is wrong in my code. Let's see if I can figure out what it is. So this here, we can do that. Oh, I put I instead of J. There we go. So we're doing an inner loop here, and so I could refactor, and that would make it easier. A separate method to go get each row at one at a time. That would probably be the right way to do it. Let me delete that, clean it up a little. We'll try this one more time. All right, and much better. It's a huge long string. What I'm actually going to do is open the raw log, and then what we can do, if we find the string towards the bottom, here it is. I can open up another website that I like to use that just is useful for displaying JSON data, and I will zoom in. So here we can see this is the data that's returned. Something is still wrong because the label and the value doesn't look right. Well, it kind of doesn't, it kind of doesn't. This is weird. So here, the label is the name that we see on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
The value is the behind the scenes. I know what this is actually. So the cell itself in this report, if we come back to the report, this cell has two items in it, a label and a value. What it doesn't have is the column header.
Right.
The column header is a totally different aspect of the report. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, how the example that's provided is not the greatest. But I believe this here, if we look for this, will tell us what we need.
And theoretically, if your booked inquiry report always contained the same columns, you could hard code in the column headers.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah,
just pull in what you need.
You definitely could. So report fact with details extends report fact. It's either in this one or it's in something else. Gets the unique identifier for a row or column grouping. Get rows. I feel like it might even be one level higher. Let me go back. This is the data cell. Let's come back to the reports namespace. Column data type, column sort order, detail column class. There we go. This is what we want. And the question is, how do we get this? It's from something else. So something is going to give us this detail column class. It's something to do with the report. It's not the data cell. It's the fact, I think. Isn't that what we just were on? No, it can't be the fact. All right, let's come back to the example one more time. Is it the report results? Maybe that might be it. Okay, so let's go to the reports results class, and we have a get all data, get fact map, get groupings, across get groupings down, get has detail rows. I wish I did not open my mouth and mention this. There's the report get all data also, which I guess I could have also used. Okay, get report metadata. Okay, maybe it's this one. Get details columns. There it is. Okay. Okay, so now I got to back up and figure out how do we get report metadata. So it's from the report results. So we're going to do it on that first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come back here, and we're going to open up our Apex class. So here's the report results right here. And then I'm going to add this here called report metadata equals results.get report metadata. And then I'm going to get the detail columns. And this will be the name of my columns. Okay. So let's do this one more time. Okay. And so now we should be able to system debug this one. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to get rid of these other ones here, or at least comment them out. And that way the logs will be a little easier to read. Okay, let's see. So now we should see the columns here. And what I'm hoping is that the number of columns here equals the number of columns down below. It may not, though, because there's a grouping. So let's see. Okay, so account name, opportunity name, stage name, fiscal quarter, et cetera, et cetera. And if we come back here, oops, sorry about that advertisement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 versus however many are in here, and I can't see them all. Let's look at the report itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh no. How is that possible that I miscount? Oh, there's a bunch.
Oh.
That's even weirder. Maybe because the values are empty. Okay, I'm just going to take a stab at this. We're going to just see if this works. Okay, let's assume that the numbers are the same. And so this is columns. let's go ahead and instead of putting in, we're going to do columns J, comma, and then we'll put the label. And let's save that. And come back here, debug, execute last. Oh, okay, no errors. That's a good sign. That's a good
Nice.
sign. Open raw log, come down to the bottom, and copy this, come back to JSON, paste it, clean it up a little, and validate. Okay, that looks correct.
13 looks
Yeah.
good.
Well, and the match, it matches, right? That was the
Yeah.
most important part, that the name is the name, the opportunity. So this is how I would extract the data out of the report. There's probably a couple different things we could do. It might matter if it's a grouped report versus a non-group report and stuff like that. But overall, the code is roughly like this, where you have to query the report. You have to then get information about the report, including the columns, and then get the details of the report records. And because the details in the records don't include the column, you then have to correlate the two. But as we just saw, the number of columns in the header and the number of columns in or cells in each row are going to be the same. So the correlation is pretty easy. You're just going through the numbers for each one and getting it. And then that way you're able to structure this data. You could structure it as JSON. You could structure it as XML. You could do carriage delimited, whatever you need. But this would allow you to do it. So the code's not that bad. The example that is available, like I said, I knew I was familiar with it from the last time I worked with it, the last couple times, that it doesn't quite do everything. This is the example specifically for when there's a grouping, which they call a fact map. If there was no groupings here, then we could just do the get data option and do that as well. So it kind of depends whether it's for presentation or for synchronization, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Will you please throw that code to me in Slack in a little code block?
Yes, I definitely will. In fact, what I'll do, just to be appropriate, I will even say a little comment here, derived from or something like that.
Credit where credit is due.
That way, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's not, I didn't come up with this on my own. I definitely had a search. This is not something that people do every day.
Yeah.
So it is a little obscure, but it's really useful because this allows you to have your admins create reports, and then your developers can write tools that go get that data and do whatever needs to happen with it. Send it to another system, send emails, generate documents, whatever it may be. And the admins can do the legwork of figuring out what are the right records that need to be pulled in, what are the fields that will get us those right records and stuff like that. And then you just pass in the report name or the report ID or some other identifier, and you're ready to go. So yes, I will share this with you.
Cool. Thank you for doing that. I know you have to run. I was watching the clock and I was about to say, this will be an example of getting most of the way and then handing it over to the Trailblazer community to see who can finish it. But
yeah,
we got where we needed to get. So
operating under pressure is what I do best.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll send you the code. We'll respond to the poster, and hopefully that's what they were looking for. Calling it from the API, you could do the same calls with the API and basically execute the Apex, or you could write your own code outside of Salesforce and have it do that. So there's two ways to do it. And a call from the outside could actually call in and execute Apex. You could also write calls directly to the API and try to do it that way too. I like Apex.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we will get that answer up. This has been another successful round of Q&A with Matt K. And so I will end, as usual, by saying thank you, Matt, again for...
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep, braving the elements and showing us, what it's like to sweat under the pressure there. Please do remember to like and subscribe to this video. As I said, for more videos in this series, our release highlights series, Salesforce events, news, etc. And of course, if you have a question of your own, do be sure to drop it in the comments here or head over to go.mkp.dev/Q&A and ask your questions there, and we will hopefully get to it next week. All right. I want to thank Matt one more time and thank everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.